The third main area in the sales message builder where you might want to spend some time and enter information is the objections and frequently asked questions. This is a central place for you to put the objections you can anticipate having to face for your product or service, and also the frequently asked questions that come up. Because what you can do is you can create a record here for each of those, and then each of the objections or questions you create, you can then create a response to that objection or a response to that frequently asked question. And when you put all of these here in this central place, then those objections and those responses will be displayed in multiple places in the sales playbook. But just a couple details on how this page is organized is that for each objection or each frequently asked question, you can have up to 3 different responses. And why you might want to do that is that you might want to have different ways of responding to objections. For example, there might be a particular objection that can come up at different times in your sales process. And with that, there might be different ways to handle that objection. And you can list out all those different ways with different responses for the different options you have for how to respond to that objection. Now, one important detail here on how this page works is that this is a central place for you to put your objections and frequently asked questions, as I've mentioned, but everything you're seeing here on this page right here is being saved and attached to a particular sales message. And that is what's selected here on the sales message drop-down button at the top. And when you change from one sales message to another, you will see a completely different set of objections and frequently asked questions and responses to those. And the reason why the system is organized that way is that for the different products or services you sell, you might have different objections and different questions that come up from the prospect. And so this allows you to create a unique set of objections and responses for your different products or services or your different sales messages more specifically. Now, in some cases, that might be overkill. You may hear that and think, well, what I sell is pretty simple. I sell 3 different service lines, but the objections are always the same, and I don't need to have all these different responses. It's just the same objections, same questions for all of my different sales messages. And if that's the case, what you can do is you can select this box right here, which is use these objections for all sales messages. So if you select that, what happens is that if you have 3, 5, 10 different sales messages, if you select this box, you will only have one set of objections and one set of frequently asked questions to manage and create. And the reason why we created that option is because if you have 5 or 10 different sales messages and you spend some time working on the different objections and responses, we don't want you to have to do that again and again for all your different sales messages if those same objections and questions apply to all your different products or services. And the last thing that I want to let you know about this page is that this will be filled in out of the gate with all of the standard objections, like I'm busy right now, what is this in regards to, I'm not the right person, I'm not interested. These are all filled in and automatically, and the software is able to create responses to these objections by using your different building blocks. Because, for example, if the prospect says I'm not interested, we can create a response to that objection by using your pain questions building block. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand if I could ask you real quick and then ask a pain question. So this is actually filled in out of the gate. And with that, if you're just getting started and trying to ramp up and get going real quickly, you could actually skip the objections and frequently asked questions because this is filled in already. But certainly, if you really want to set the system up correctly and optimize your sales message, once you get going or set up, you definitely at some point want to come back and work on your objections and frequently asked questions. And also, if you haven't watched our training video on how to respond and handle objections, that might be something good to watch, and I'll put a link in the description below because the software gives you responses to these objections and you can use these right out of the gate. But it's important to understand how we arrived at this response for this particular objection and how to use these objection responses. Because if you take the responses we give you and just read them and don't understand how to use them, them, they will not be completely effective. To properly use the objections that the software and our methodology gives you, it's important to understand our approach for responding and getting around objections, and that's all explained in our training video.